Okay, a few stocks on watch for tomorrow. But first, let's talk about the overall market. This is the SPY. Um, Nice breakdown today on massive volume out of this channel. Now, I've thought for a long time that the market is way overbought. I think I read that margin is at record highs. Margin levels are at record highs. I think volatility was close to record lows, and that's a pretty good combination. Plus, the average PE for the SPY right now is again, I hate to throw numbers out because I'm just going by stuff I've read recently and I don't have them in front of me. But I think the market has a higher PE than historically it should. There's several factors that add up to a possible big correction, or at the very least, a normal correction, whatever that is, 10% or whatever. Okay, having said all that, I have no idea where the market's going, but I'm kind of excited now because trading should get better. Whenever you're in a slow rising channel like this, there's not a lot of volatility. Now we have it. So we had this 300 plus point down day in the Dow, okay, and this breakdown in the SPY. Having said that, on Friday, I'm not necessarily thinking, oh, the market's going to tank some more. And what you can do is go back and look at other days where the SPY had a big red candle and kind of look at what happened the next day. Now, it's still not apples to apples because every day and every period in time is different, which makes the stock market so interesting to me and such a puzzle. Okay, you could pick this candle, say, well, that was a pretty good volume, wasn't as high as this, but that was a pretty good volume down day. The next day, it gapped down, sold off some more, right? You could look at this candle and say, hey, that was a pretty good, very high volume down day. It looked like the end of the world probably. And the next day, gapped up a little and put in a narrow range. And if you look at it at the time, and this is why it's not apples to apples, the channel break back then, and you always want to make sure that you're always comparing kind of similar situations, and even then it doesn't matter that much, but the channel break back then was right here. Yet another day, a couple days of bouncing, and then a bigger push down. So this candle right here isn't fair to compare to today's candle, all right? Because you already broke down out of a channel about a week before that, and then sold off some more. So the next day it starts a bounce, okay? But again, today's candle is day one of a breakdown out of a channel. So we might get another big down day, but oftentimes when you have a big move in the market and everything makes a big move, most everything. The next day you get kind of a quiet day, a more narrow range than you would expect. But having said all that, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm trying to go over possible scenarios to give you an open mind going into tomorrow. I hope that makes sense. But all right, having said all that, let's go. ETN, this thing, huge down day, gap down and bounce, and then another down day. So it just goes on my radar. All right, if the market does bounce tomorrow, or if it sells off and then bounces, did not mean to do that. Now, one little price point back here in early February, right here, does not make support, okay, at all. As a matter of fact, you'd rather see a whole bunch of trading in this area for better support. But it's still an area I'm going to watch, okay? So it's around 67. It's a little below that. But if we get down around 67, maybe flush below it, I will be looking for a bounce, assuming the market's bouncing at the same time in ETN. IP, talked about this the other day. Several days down in a row after this crazy action, the sell-off, the huge bounce, then back down. You have the 200-day right there. I can get this line out of the way now. But this one is where those recent lows were. So you're down like 4 or 5 days in a row after that crazy up move, and you got the 200-day and recent price support, an area where that move started from. So I love this thing around 47. So IP goes on watch. The other day in chat, I was on I had the projector going, and I was showing this chart on an intraday basis, and I said, anyway, IP on a chart. And I realized that didn't sound very normal. It sounded like, well, never mind. I said, that sounds weird. All right, CLF. CLF on a weekday, a pretty nice move, inside red day. And you know what? This thing held up pretty well today. All right? Yeah, the initial pop, pullback, it never did take out its early lows, and it had pretty good relative strength. So what I'm trying to do is populate my watch list for today with really weak stuff that's overdue for a bounce, and stuff that had relative strength like CLF. Okay, so that one goes on long watch. YUM, this one's pretty darn interesting. Now, I don't know if it bounces tomorrow, but there's a really well-established channel here on YUM. Okay, and so this one's interesting because today it gaps down to the very bottom of that channel, but look, it closes in a very weak tape. It closes near the high of its near the high of the day. Perfect bounce off that. And so also, if you notice, before the gap down, I don't even know what the news was. Yum is KFC and Taco Bell. I don't know what the news was to make it gap down today, but look what it did preceding that gap down. A lot of times when something's really, really weak before a gap down, the gap down is sort of capitulation, and you've got to like the longer term chart here. So if I were an investor, which I'm not, I'm flat every night, this one's pretty interesting to me for a possible multi-day run. But I am going to watch it tomorrow for a potential long. LKQ, again, this one just lands on the watch list because nice volume and relative strength today. Okay, here it is on 60s. So you had this nice pop, and it really held up well in a weak tape. So that one I'm just going to watch for a potential long. Fuel Cell, FCEL. This one's got a nice chart. Again, a strong stock in a weak tape. You had this crazy move back here. You know, then you had you've got basically pretty clearly defined resistance right there, but you had nice volume. I don't know, 8 or 9 days ago, and pretty nice volume today to get back up near there. So up over that little kind of pennant or whatever, up over that, this thing could break out. So Fuel Cell goes on watch. GameStop, 3 days down in a row to what was formerly resistance at 42 bucks. Now it's down to support. So if the market bounces, that's a good candidate for a bounce. PTEN, I don't love this one, but you had former resistance at 34, and now it's down there to support. So any strength in the market, you see it there, resistance, then support right there, and it's back down there again. Also, you can't see it on this chart. This green line is close to it, though. Also at the 50-day. And speaking of support and resistance real quick, Best Buy had resistance there and support there. I drew this line on an intraday basis for folks in chat to show them that Best Buy was getting shape into support. And look at that. Look at that. Just clean bounce off that line. What a great, I hate to say this in this video because I didn't make a nickel off it. I pointed this out when it was coming down here. Said, hey, it's getting close to that support line. And then I was off doing something else. But I mean, look at that. It just goes to show the power of knowing and drawing those lines, putting lines where recent resistance is, especially if something gets intraday shape. In other words, a big intraday move down into support or up into resistance. So it's extended at the time it gets there. So it gives it more power for the bounce back, okay? For the fade the big move, all right? And that's a good example. I don't have this one on watch for tomorrow. I just wanted to show that, how clean that worked. And TSO. TSO, extreme relative strength. The refiners were all strong today, but TSO, as far as the daily chart, stronger than most. TSO, I actually called a long in the chat room today, right when it came out of it. I showed everybody this little tight flag pattern and said if it gets to 60.62 with a stop at 60.42, so 20 cents risk, which is probably right around there, and the stop right about there. I mean, it's really tight. And you can see what happened. It went all the way over 62. So the other refiners were really strong and near their highs of the day, and TSO had been strong earlier. So that's why I really liked that little pennant break. And I was on the projector and the microphone to show that setup before it occurred. So a lot of people did well on TSO thanks to that. And you know what? That is it. That's what I'm going to start my list with tomorrow. We'll find other stuff as the day unfolds. I'm going to quit babbling, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.